Good evening, everyone. My name is Ansgar Mitchell. I'm a public information officer here with Southwest Area Incident Management Team 5. And just want to thank you all for hopefully joining us tonight for this virtual community meeting. Just wanted to cover a few things for some housekeeping. This meeting is going to be kept to a one hour time limit where we're asking that folks, if you could please make sure that your microphones are muted. During the meeting, please enter in your questions in the chat, and after presentations, we'll open up to a Q&A session. After that 1 hour of presentations is over, we will continue to respond to questions in the chat. So I know that it's a 1 hour time limit, but we will continue to respond to those questions. So moving forward, for our first presentation tonight, we have our Operations Sections Chief, Brandon Glenn.
Good evening, Brandon Glenn, Operations for Incident Management Team 5. I'm going to go over just a brief update on what we got going on out here on the fire this afternoon. I'll start up on the north end in Division Delta. We had significant rain up on that part of the fire yesterday, so the crews got in there today going direct, doing a lot of hotspot, cold trail, putting in hand line where needed, and making really good progress up here with some hotshot crews moving from the 117 road out to the west. From the 117 road, which is the road that leads to Via Madonna, back this way, a lot of real intricate roads, getting in around structures, putting out hot spots, in and around structures. But this is all very secure out to the edge here. Moving around into Division Hotel, from Eagle Creek down to Cedar Creek, same thing. Crews are in there, getting in around structures, making sure that all the hot spots that are still lingering after the rain are mopped up. A lot of utilities trying to gain access in there today, gas, P&M, so the crews are helping them cut trees, gain access in the roads and that sort of thing. So a lot of work in there doing that. From Cedar Creek down to Flume, there's a big hose lay along the edge of the community out here. So crews have been mopping up this all day today from this little section, just trying to get as much depth as they can, securing that edge. Moving around over into the south side of the fire from Flume Canyon out to this edge here, into Division Alpha. Crews have been working with dozers, going as direct as they can out to here. There is a few spots where they've had to go somewhat indirect and do a little bit of burning as they go. This portion of the fire received the least amount of rain, so they were able to actually get some of those finer fuels to burn in the burnout. I'm going to move down here into the salt fire. This fire is actually looking really good in this section of the fire, from in Division Papa, from the break all around here. That's secured, looking really good. Crews are mopping that up. This part that's west of Highway 70 here, that's been good for a couple of days. Really secure. They're continuing to mop up and get depth there with hand crews. And then looking out this way, in Division Papa, that's a lot of the work that was happening today. Got hotshot crews, heavy equipment, putting in direct line on all of this, basically from 78 all the way to the division break here. This Whitetail Road at back is mostly dozer line, and then going out this way, the crews have been checking that by hand today. This portion of the fire, moving out here into Division Tango, haven't been working on that. They're scouting this out today. The Tango resources have been working this edge for the last couple of days, and it's starting to look really good doing the same thing, much the same thing they were over here. Hot shot crews and dozers going direct as they can, getting out here into this northeast corner of the fire. That's the end of the update, but I'm sure there'll be some questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom with weather.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Bird. I am the incident meteorologist here with Team 5 on the South Fork and Salt Fires. I am a National Weather Service forecaster from the office down in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, just to our south. And this piece of ground is what we forecast for every day. So we're pretty familiar with it. I'll tell you why I'm here too. You would think, oh, you got all the firefighters here. Why do we have a meteorologist? When we talk about how fire behaves, how it moves, weather is one of the most critical components to that. And so it is very imperative that the team and the firefighters and the public in general have a good idea of what that weather is going to do from day to day and hour to hour, actually. And so I have one single focus, and that would be the weather. And we brief all the crews and the overhead before they go out into the field so that they know what to expect when they're out there. And then we have a weather watch all day just so that we can make sure that we are on top of any showers, thunderstorms, wind shifts, anything that might threaten their safety. So that's why I'm here. And before we go to the forecast looking forward, I want to look back just a little bit. So I'm going to move over here to the screen, and we're going to talk about the conditions that set up the situation that we're in now with these two fires. And what we're looking at here is what we call the hot, dry, windy index, okay? And so basically what it does is it tells us how hot, dry, and windy it is every day compared to normal for that day. So it's a climatological thing. Every one of these peaks, these spikes that you see, is an afternoon, going back from a couple days ago, 30 days back in time. And what we're looking for is those tall spikes. Those tall spikes are days where it was very hot, very dry, very windy compared to climatological normals. So anytime you get these peaks that get up above this yellow line, that's the 90th percentile. It means only 10% of the days in the past were ever that bad. And so that's a day, even above the green right here, which is the 70th percentile. Those are days that if you had a fire start or established, that it would be difficult to manage. It would really want to move and run. And so you can see with great frequency, there is a lot of hot, dry, windy days leading up to right here, this really high peak. And this is the day the fire started. So you can see in the couple days right before it, we had exceptionally hot, exceptionally dry, and very windy days, including the day that these two fires started. In fact, it was the worst that we've seen over the last month. Now, going back even further to the beginning of the year, we are under drought conditions, and we have been for some time. So we're under significant and severe drought, and we've only seen about 25 to 50% on average of the precipitation that we should have had here in the Sacramentos for the year thus far. So we went in under what we consider fairly typical fire weather conditions. This is the peak of our fire season right now, where the fuels are as dry as they're going to get because of the dry spring that we always have. So we went in under that warm, dry, southwest flow regime that is typical this time of year. So let's move to the next slide. And this was the transition yesterday. And I'm going to re-quote something that Governor Lujan Grisham said to us just yesterday when she was here. And she was talking to the vice president of the Mescalero tribe. And she said, I've come to learn that anytime you get a transition in weather, there's some good and there's some bad. So we got both of that yesterday. We've got the moisture. The relative humidity really came up. But what happened is the wind shifted east. They got really strong during the afternoon. They pumped in a lot of moisture. We had convergence, and all that resulted in what you see right here. This is a radar grab off of my phone, and that's a very, very, very strong storm. And that storm is sitting right here on the fires. And so we wanted that moisture, but we didn't want the large hail. We didn't want the heavy rain that was almost 2 inches. And we certainly didn't want the debris flows and the flash flooding that we got out of the canyons on the fire. But that's the threat that we morph to once we go from, hot, dry, windy conditions with the fire really wanting to run to now more moist conditions, and we're seeing thunderstorms and heavy rain on top of burn scars, which are very susceptible to flash flooding. So this shows you how strong that storm was, with hail that was over 2.5 inches in size, so golf ball size hail and larger. And then this is some of the flooding that we had off of Cedar Creek right here in Ruidoso. This is going into Paradise Canyon Road right there. And so this is a lot of that debris that got washed out of the canyons and ended up in town over the streets and stuff. And you can find this in several places in town right now as they're cleaning all this up. So let's now move on to what we're going to expect going forward. So yesterday we got that moisture, and now we're going to keep it for several days. And the reason we're going to keep it is because we're going to keep southeast and southerly winds. So to our east is tons and tons of deep Gulf moisture coming in off the Texas Gulf Coast, coming all the way across Texas into the East Plains of New Mexico, and now they've washed into the Sacramentos and all the way west to Arizona. So now we've got a lot of moisture in place. And what that means for us now is, instead of having those really low relative humidities, we were getting single digits with no recovery at night. And so now, man, we are really recovering at night to 95%, 90%, and that's 0 to 100. So we're right there on the high end of moisture. In the afternoons, like I said, we were getting single digits. Now we're having trouble dropping below 40%. That's really good for all those fuels out there, because they take that moisture in. In addition, a lot of clouds that keeps the sun off of the fuels. That's good. And our temperatures have been cool the last several days. They will start warming, but temperatures aren't as critical as a lot of these other elements. The other thing is the winds. A little bit of wind today and again tomorrow, but then after that, we really knock those winds down, and this fire really needs winds to move. So this is working in our favor also. And then lastly, these chances of showers, thunderstorms, measurable rain, that's good if it's not in excess, and that's what we're watching for every day. We're going to be watching radar, getting word out to the firefighters and all those folks up there, and let them know if there is a threat of severe weather or flash flooding. I didn't mention this, but when we create this is a 6-day graphical forecast that we produce every single day, give it to the team, to the operations folks, so they know what they're dealing with in the weather. And we really want to see a lot of green boxes. Green boxes are the moderated fire conditions where we really can get a handle of this. We don't want to see the take caution yellow or the red. Now we got red here just for the high temperatures, but like I said, it's not that critical. So with all this green in place, it's given us an extended period where we're going to have moderated fire weather going forward. So that really does work in our benefit. I'll be here later for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Arthur Gonzalez. I'm the fire behavior analyst for Southwest Incident Team 5. So similar to Tom, I'm going to talk a little bit about like my role here on the fire and kind of the focus area, and then I'll kind of walk through what the fire's done over the last couple days and what we expect over the next couple days. So as a fire behavior analyst, we're fortunate on this fire that we've got a team of analysts, several folks here that are dedicated to paying attention to the fire behavior, what's going on in the fire, and kind of anticipating what's going on. So the 3 focus areas for us is, first and foremost, firefighter safety. We're trying to anticipate where the fire is going, how that fire is going to behave, where it's going to move, so that we can keep folks in a safe position. That is our primary focus. We are looking out for those folks that are actually out on the fire. A second focus that we have is sharing information with partners and stakeholders. A lot of values at risk out here, a lot of things that can be impacted by fire. So we're trying to provide information for those folks so that they can plan accordingly. And the third part is why we're here tonight, and that's public information. And so we're trying to provide information to the public. We understand there's nothing worse than not being able to see what's going on, so you're all looking for information, and so that's what we want to do. Provide information. What has the fire done? Where is it heading? What do we expect over the next few days, to try to provide some information to you all. So I'm going to follow a format similar to Tom. I'm going to kind of step back a couple days, talk about when this fire started, the conditions that supported its rapid growth, and then what's happening today and what we expect over the next couple days. So what we got up here is the map of the 2 fires. And it just what I really want to point out here is these 2 fires. This guy's grown a little bit here, but the starts were down here in the southwest corner on both of these fires right here. So when these fires started, they had an alignment of very hot, dry, windy weather that Tom just showed you. They had an alignment of heavy fuels and topography. The Sacramento Mountains, I don't have to tell you all, are as rugged as anywhere we see here in the Southwest. So when we have that kind of alignment, In just a matter of a few hours, these things built enough momentum driven by winds and all these dry fuels from drought conditions, and really pushed hard with the wind. And you can see that in both flows of those fires. So they had everything in alignment. And I got a graph here that we can flip over and show. So the next graph, this is energy release component. Tom talked about these daily trends. This is more of a seasonal trend. This is telling us what's going on throughout the year. And so what I want to point out here is this dark line is 2024. So our current year as compared to the last 10 years, 2014 to 2022. So these two big spikes that we're seeing here was the onset of the two recent events that we've had here. This last spike, this real big peak, that was the day that both the Salt Fire and the South Fork started. What this tells me is how much available energy is available for these fires as they get started and start to build momentum. So you can see they're up here in this red line. That's like all-time high that we've seen in the last 10 years. So it had the weather, it had the fuels, and it had the topography. So everything came into alignment, rapidly built momentum. The firefighters that were on initial attack, it just too much heat, too much energy for them to try to get around this. That's why we've seen that. So what's happened now over the last couple of days, if we can take a look at these photographs, we'll talk about what's happened here. So this was a photo from yesterday morning before the system rolled in, before we got clouds. You can kind of see the village down here, Highway 220. This is Sierra Blanca Peak up here on top. So yesterday morning, before the clouds came in, we had full sunshine. You can see the activity building up on top of the mountain. This was after the first 2 days of big pushes. Now most of the heat is up on top of the mountain. Too rugged to really get folks in there and staff that. So through the day that started to build. But what happened was we had this system come through. We got a lot of clouds and we got the moisture that Tom talked about. So if we can flip to the next slide. So this is as this system was building. This is a big thunderstorm building over the top of what was the Blue 2 fire here and the current ongoing South Fork fire. So this thing just built through the afternoon. It started to shade, put some shade, cooled the temperatures, brought in some moisture, and it really started, you could see this heat up in here starting to, it's still building, but it's starting to dissipate and flatten out a little bit. This is just before we started to get that moisture. And if we can flip over, here's what we seen this morning as we drove up to Ski Run Road. This is Sierra Blanca sits up here in the clouds. This is those pockets of heat that I was talking about that we seen yesterday morning building early in the morning. Those things sat in the clouds pretty much all day today. So our significant heat sources, as we tried to get over there, fly to see what was looking, they were, we couldn't see them because they were sitting in the clouds. So that moisture really hung around today, and it really took the momentum out of this fire. So if we built that rapidly in the first couple days, we've now lost that momentum. The fire's lost that momentum. And so you can see as we look around the fire footprint, there's still fire out there, there's still smoke, it's gonna move. But over the next 2 to 3 days, we expect very little lateral movement, very little spread. So we still have the hazards out there with fire and still got a lot of work to do, but it's really changed that fire behavior. And we expect that over the next 2 to 3 days. So as folks are looking for information, what we're really focusing on now at this point is when might we see that return to active fire spread? Because this is what we're expecting over the next 2 to 3 days. So as we try to continue to provide information for the public, that is our focus at this point now. When will we see, is there potential for this to start picking up and moving again? And so we'll be looking at that and be around for questions at the end of the presentations.
All right, everyone. We're at the point in the meeting where we'd like to open up the floor for our agency administrators to speak to anything about the incident. And I'd like to go ahead and just do a check to see if we have our agency administrator with the Mescalero Apache tribe and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And moving on, I would like to also open up the floor to New Mexico State Forestry, to Laura McCarthy if she's on tonight. And then lastly, I'd also like to open up the floor to the Lincoln National Forest Agency Administrator.
Evening, Jason Freeman with the Lincoln National Forest. I'm Forest Supervisor on the forest, and really for tonight, I want to thank everybody for coming out. We've had a team come in and really help us get some momentum on catching this fire. We had staff from on the forest hop on it really quick and try to protect the communities the best they could, and without those individuals, we wouldn't be in the place we're in right now to be starting to clean up with this weather. We'd be still in a rough spot. So I want to thank the team and my staff for hopping on the fire.
Thank you, Jason. And I did also want to open up the floor for Lincoln County Under Sheriff Geraldine Martinez as our agency administrator as well.
Hello, my name is Geraldine Martinez. I'm the Undersheriff of Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. I'm here. I just want to reassure everybody. You know, we do have some evacuations that are set, and they're going to have to be held for a considerable amount of time. So I ask everybody to be patient with us. We're doing everything. Our duty is to protect Lincoln County, the people and the property of Lincoln County. We are working with New Mexico State Police, Ruidoso Police Department. We've got all of our all of our officers or deputies on full staff. We have the assistance of Otero County Sheriff's Office helping us, and National Guard has arrived, but we are manning ingress traffic control points coming in. We're doing roving patrols, providing the security, welfare checks, escorting people in and out. We just ask that you be patient with us and try not to enter the evacuated areas because it causes a strain on everybody that's in there trying to protect our lands. But I'll be available for questions afterwards. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Dave Gesser, Incident Commander with Team 5. First off, just really wanted to let everyone know that the initial attack resources with all agencies did a great, fantastic job on this for what they had. A lot of activity going on, and they really set us up for where we are sitting today. So, again, great job to those folks. A lot of credit goes there. As you heard and saw, we have up over 1,000 personnel on this fire, and that's just the firefighters. There's a lot of other cooperators that are out there that are assisting and helping us, and it takes a team to do this, right? So for us to come in and also work with those entities, the local law enforcements, the power companies, the communications, the emergency management, everyone, it takes all of us to make this work. And so I really want to thank all that cooperation we've had there as well. Our main focus has been really taking care of the community and really trying to get folks back in as soon as we can, and that's working with the local entities as well to be able to get in there and make sure things are secure, make sure power's back up, and that we can safely get people back into there. So it takes a little bit of time. You heard, please be patient with us. We're trying to get folks back in as soon as we can, but we have to make sure the fire area is secure within those areas. So as soon as we do that, working closely with the local law enforcement, we'll be able to start lifting some of those evacuations, be able to look at trying to get folks back into those locations. One of the things I wanted to touch on, and it's very untraditional, as you heard where the heel of these fires were, and typically, like on the salt fire, we typically start at the heel of the fire and we anchor and flank the fire, which means we're coming up on the edges to try to secure that fire. On the South Fork, they started it before we got here, as I said, with the local folks, and then we continued, but it was working backwards, really coming up to the front of this fire and working back towards the heel so that we could protect more of that community. So it was a great effort done there. They got a lot of really good things secured up in here and just working to mop that area up and be able to get things taken care of in there. I know we'll get into the questions and things. I know there's some things in there, but the one focus I wanted to put in there is that the fires are still undetermined. It's under investigation. So I just wanted to let folks know that, the cause of this is still undetermined. But we do have folks working in there and looking into that as well. But again, the entities and everyone we've been working with, I really appreciate the cooperation we've had there and all the work that everyone's been putting into this. It's long hours. Folks are working around the clock. We have night operations in there that are working in the evenings. So we have folks on this fire 24 hours a day. So thank you, and we appreciate it, and we'll be getting into the answers, question and answers. Thanks.
Again, just before we get into question and answers again, we just want to make sure that people are able to get the resources to where if you do need to contact the incident, we do have a public information line, a media line, and also an email that questions or information can be sent into as well. And we are sharing information up on INCIWeb for both Salt and South Fork Fire. And then beginning tomorrow, we are planning to do a daily operational update briefing, which will be posted on here on Facebook as well. So as we'll go ahead and get into the questions and answers session. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll go ahead and how this will work is I'll have the questions read to me, and I will read them back to the audience so that way everyone can hear. So the question is how will homeowners find information out about their properties? Undersheriff, would you mind taking this question?
Currently at this time, we are monitoring the properties, but it's more than likely going to have to wait until we allow you all or lift the evacuations to come onto the property. We are doing some escorts into properties and checking some properties under certain circumstances, but honestly, it's gonna be some time before any information is shared, and we'll do that through the EOC there in Ruidoso. They'll probably be leading that effort. Okay.
If you wouldn't mind staying up here, we'll have another question for you. So the question is there's concerns about looting and properties being protected, and how is this being addressed?
Okay, earlier today we received some calls. There were some concerns in the Alto area, various areas around the evacuated areas, and we've responded to these calls. We've checked the situation out, and we are coming across some people that are out there that shouldn't be out there, but for the most part, some people chose not to evacuate, so they stayed there. But we are not finding mass looting or anything like that. We do, like I said, we do have state police, we have our sheriff's deputies, and we have Otero resources there. And if it's in Ruidoso proper, we have Ruidoso assisting us with doing roving patrols throughout the community. And thus far, it's been manageable. But the more people that come in, it strains our resources as well as the resources that are really not operational within there. What I mean is like radio communications, power, water, those kind of things. So we're already strained there. And the more people that come in that we have to chase down, in a sense, makes it harder for us to do that. But we are doing everything we can to protect the evacuated areas.
All right, next question.
Can you speak to containment and why it's still zero?
So the question is, can we speak to containment and why is it still zero?
Yeah, I can talk to that. A lot of it is basically we got a lot of line to cover out here. So you all are from here, and in an area here that we might have 2 miles in here, we might have up to 20 miles worth of road systems in there. So what we really like to do is get in there. We check for hot spots, any heat in here, and we work that edge. And then we have to go back and we get deeper and deeper on the edges as we can. And then we want to be able to patrol those areas, check for any snags, any things like that that can pose a hazard in there. So what we're really wanting to do is make sure that the perimeter is secure. So with these storms we're getting and the outflow winds that we can have from these storms, we don't want anything to be able to cross that line and start moving again. That's why you don't see any containment yet. I would expect to start to see some containment in the next couple of days, but we have to really make sure those lines are secure and will hold up to an event.
Okay, and next question. So the next question is, where are the air tankers?
Okay, I'm assuming that question is based on today's operations. We didn't have air tankers in the air today simply because the cloud level was too low for air tankers to work safely. We did have heavy helicopters in there working today. We have had air tankers in all previous shifts before the clouds came in. So there have been a lot of air resources working on this fire. Lots of water, lots of retardant all over the fire. Is it for me? No.
So next question. The question is, can you share how much damage or fire spread we can expect?
Let me see if I can address this from a couple different ways. As the sheriff mentioned earlier, so I know they haven't had a complete assessment of the structures, and so I don't want to go down that. I'll talk a little bit about maybe more of the damage on the resource side, and then talk about what we expect for fire spread. So I'll use this map right here. So let me start with the salt fire. So the salt fire, when it came across Highway 70 and pushed across right here, this was burning on pinyon juniper tops, ponderosa pine down in the drainage bottoms on the slopes. So we did see some what we would call high severity. So, you know, the trees burned up all across some of the tops of these ridges here as that came down towards the bottom where firefighters were able to engage that. Not as much what I would call damage into the tree, so more of a low to moderate severity along the road system here. On the South Fork, as I talked about this alignment of fuels, weather, and topography, we really seen this hard push to the northeast, and there is up in these upper drainages over here into Eagle Creek, Ruidoso and stuff. Some of those slopes did burn hot, so there is some resource damage up high up into here. So I'll speak a little bit to that. As far as where can we expect this to spread, like I mentioned earlier, with the weather conditions that we see over the next 3 to 4 days, we expect very little growth. One of our fire analysts did some modeling yesterday, and it captured that moisture, and the models kind of support what we're thinking as far as fire behavior. We expect very little growth around both fires. If we see any growth, maybe in the southwest corner, just didn't get the amount of precip that we got up here earlier. Folks are making good progress on here. This doesn't have any ground personnel yet, so if we see any growth, it's going to be here. It's going to be minimal. It's going to be minimal. We'll still see pockets of trees burning. We'll still see logs burning. We'll see stump holes burning. But as far as the lateral spread, we expect very minimal growth over the next 3-4 days.
So I'll touch a little bit on the second part of that that Art had mentioned. So we are working very closely with the local law enforcement agencies to do damage assessment as far as the structures and things go. It's hard to get that out. I know there's been a lot of numbers thrown out there, but there's no accurate as of yet. We are working very closely with them, and as soon as we have all that information, we will get that out to folks. But we are, as a team, are working very closely with the local law enforcement to get that assessment done. Thank you.
Next question.
Where can the public go for official fire information?
So the question is, where can the public go for official fire information? So for official fire information, I would recommend the public go to our NC web page for the South Fork and Salt fires, where we are posting daily updates and updated information for both the incidents. That does include containment status, acreage and change, and or any other specific information with evacuation orders or any of that that could be important to the communities. Also, we do have, as I mentioned before, a phone number for public information, media line, and also email where questions or information requests can be submitted to. For, as I mentioned, for the official sources of information, we are also using our Team 5 Facebook page where this is being viewed tonight, where, as I mentioned earlier, that will be posting daily operational update videos.
When will maps be updated? Will they be updated tomorrow?
So the next question is, when will maps be updated, and will they be updated tomorrow?
Yeah, so we try to get maps as much as we can on a daily basis, but it's the impacts of weather to what we call the infrared, which is IR. So we have an aircraft that'll come in overhead and do an infrared flight. But if the weather's sitting over the top of the fire due to the cloud cover, things like that, we can't get that update. So we can't tell, you know, on the perimeter size of things. So that impacts that. We have some other technologies we can look at, but as Art had mentioned earlier, very little growth. So the report we currently have, you know, on the South Fork is 14 acres of growth from yesterday to today. So that's very minimal. The Salt fire, you know, it didn't receive a lot of precip. It had about a 500 acre growth from yesterday to today. But again, the crews are doing really good there. But we try to update the maps on a daily basis. But as I said, the weather does impact that.
Okay, and next question.
How can the community make donations to those affected and firefighters?
So the question is how can donations be accepted for the community members and or firefighters?
Yeah, and the firefighters in the community within firefighters, we appreciate the donations, but for us, the firefighters are taken care of. If you've seen when we come in, basically it's a small city when we come in. As I said, we have over 1,000 personnel here. So they're fed, they have everything they need, they come with what they need for up to 21 days. As far as the community goes, there's donation sites that are set up and around. So I know here at the fairgrounds, where we're located, there is a site here that donations are coming in, but a lot of it would be like at the shelters where folks are at. They're accepting donations in those areas as well, and we can get that information out to folks as well.
Okay, and next question.
There are a lot of questions about specific roadways reopening, including 70, Forest Road 127, and others. Can someone speak to that?
So the question is that there's a lot of questions about roadways, including Forest Road 70, and when other roads are going to open up in near the fire area.
Yeah, again, I can talk to that just as we did on the community. So we have to ensure that, you know, as a 70, where it did cross the 70, that things are secure there. Any of the hazards are taken care of. If there's guardrails, any of the possible rock slides, anything like that. So we're working with the county and folks to make sure the roads are safe to open back up. And when we can open them back up, we will. But it's also that access then coming into the community as well. So we got to look at couple things, right? The community and the access coming into the community. So we're working diligently to get that done, but there's a lot of things that we got to look out as far as safety aspect goes.
All right, next question.
How are drones being used on fires?
So the next question is how are drones being used on the fires?
Yeah, so we are using drones for the infrared, that IR. So we're utilizing them to try to detect hotspots. We can also utilize the drones to go in and do some structure assessments. And we can also utilize them for aerial ignition. Basically, as you heard, you know, if we had a dozer line and we needed to burn out a little section of ground there, then we could utilize those drones for that as well. So we do have a couple drones on site, and we are utilizing those drones in those aspects.
Next question.
What other resources have been ordered?
The next question is what other resources have been ordered?
So as far as on the ground resources, currently we've got some outstanding orders for engines. That's, you know, type 3, type 4, type 6 engines. Those are your wildland fire engines. We do have some couple outstanding orders for a couple of crew replacements, but the way we determine, you know, how we need those resources out on the ground is you see these division letters here. Each one of those divisions has a division supervisor, and they determine based on what they see on the ground what their resource needs are on a daily basis. And currently, you know, with the 1,000 personnel, there's been very little need from those division leaders for additional resources from what we have now. It's just going to take time for the resources we have now to do the job that needs to be done.
Next question.
When will self-service and internet be back up?
So the next question is when will cell service and internet be back up in the area?
Yeah, so as far as the internet side of things go and cell service, you know, cell service we have brought in what they call a cow. It's with Verizon. It helps to try to boost the signal for folks, and they have moved some of them up to where the repeaters are currently, that are the towers that have gone down, and the signal's starting to come back in, but we're just again assessing those areas to be able to get those folks in to safely get in there and do the work that needs done. And I know they are currently working on the IT lines coming in, and we have people currently doing that at this time. So we're trying to get that system back up and running as quick as we can. You know, they're working as hard as they can. There's a lot of things that have been down, you know, the power lines, there's several power poles that are burned. So we're trying to get those folks in to get that stuff all back up and running. I can't give you an exact estimate, but we're working diligently with those folks to get them in there and try to restore all the communication, the power, water, you know, the water's still there, but just trying to get all that infrastructure back in place.
Next question.
Will evacuations be lifted in phases?
So the next question is will evacuations be lifted in phases?
Yes, they will be. With the team working very closely, we have liaison officers that are working hand in hand with the emergency management and the local law enforcement agencies. And when we deem that an area is safe to do so, we'll start lifting those, and it'll be lifted just based on the areas. So it'll be not all at once. There'll be localized areas it'll be lifting as we go through this.
Okay, next question.
Can you explain how flood damage is mitigated?
So the next question is, can you explain how flood damage is mitigated?
Okay, I'll speak a little bit to that. So one of the unique situations that we have here with these two fires is we've got active fire, and we actually have some storm systems coming through and are predicted for the next few days. So flood mitigation. So a couple things happening right now. One is the local unit, the local agencies that are involved here have ordered a burned area response team. That team will come in and start laying out a plan, assessing the hazards and starting to develop a plan for mitigation efforts. That's generally speaking over the whole fire area. And then the second thing is National Guard is on scene, and they're actually starting to do some work as we speak to start mitigating some of the flood risk. So very unique situation. Typically most fires, we get through the fire phase, we secure things, and then before storms start to hit, 2, 3, 4 weeks out, we start this type of work. We're going to have to do both at the same time. Makes that just that much more complex. Folks were asking about access and egress and when these are going to be lifted. So a lot of work that still has to occur to try to stabilize the area, both from wildfire and then the post-fire effects.
Okay, next question.
Can you explain what a TFR is?
So the next question is, can you explain what a TFR is?
A TFR just stands for a temporary flight restrictions, and that's just basically a box around the fire where we don't allow other aircraft to encroach on the fire area, and that's simply for the safety of the aircraft that we do have working the fire, so that there isn't any sort of mid-air crash or something from an unknown helicopter or plane or drone coming into that TFR. So that's what that stands for, and it's just basically for the safety of our aircraft.
Next question.
About local businesses and how to find out if they're open.
So the question is about local businesses and how to find out if they are open.
Okay, everything inside the evacuated area is basically closed. There might be, Albertsons, some of the bigger stores, and some of the restaurants that are catering to the first responders. But if you have any questions, you can call the non-emergency line of Ruidoso Police Department or the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. But as far as local businesses being open, they're all closed.
Next question.
We need proof of ownership to get back into our property, and what kind of resources are available for people who lost homes.
So the question is, do we need proof of ownership to get back into our property? And what kind of resources are available to the community who have had damages? Or, I'm sorry, what was the, correction, lost homes?
We're looking into that, whether they're going to do that or not. I mean, it's your guys' homes. We just want to ensure that we don't have folks going in there that shouldn't be in there. And so that probably there'll be some kind of monitoring on that, I would think. But we want to just make sure and avoid the looting and things like that. So we'll get that figured out. They just haven't determined that as of this time with allowing folks back in. And what was the second part of that question? Okay, so I know FEMA has been activated, So you can go onto their website, and what we'll do is try to get that information and get it out on one of our news releases. So I know FEMA has stood up, and there's resources there that are available to folks as well. Through the county, they'll be setting up some stuff, the emergency management as well. We'll have some things set up. So as we get that information, we'll get that into our news releases, but it's also some of that stuff will be coming out on the news releases that the local agencies are putting out as well.
And I believe we have enough time to take a couple more questions before our IC kind of talks about, what we're going to be doing forward to make sure that we're continuing good communications during this incident. So we'll go ahead and take the next question.
Are shelters still available? Where can we find this?
So the next question is are shelters still available, and where can we find a list? Yep. So for that question, you can contact the public information line, and we do have a distribution list of where those evacuation centers are. And we are also working with the Village of Ruidoso's Emergency Operations Center, who also is developing a list of that. So if you reach out to us, we will try to get that provided to you. Next question.
Will this video be available later?
The next question is will this video be available later? And yes, it will be. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to our incident commander and before we close out the meeting.
Well, thank you. A lot of great questions, and I appreciate those questions. And really, we want to get this information out to everyone. And so this will stay on there. We'll continue to answer the questions that folks have with our PIO shop and others. But one of the things I wanted to get out, the area is evacuated. Some people have just, have stayed. The connectivity there is very tough right now, right? So no cell phone service, things like that. So if you're not able to get a hold of a family member, it doesn't mean they're missing or anything like that. It just means that you may not be able to get in contact with them because of the, no cell coverage, no phone lines, things like that. And we are working to get that out there. So what we're going to do starting tomorrow, we'll be doing what we call an operational briefing, and it'll be posted on this page. That'll be happening in the mornings. So they'll give an update of things that went on that night and the day. And then starting on Saturday at 5 o'clock on the same website, Facebook page, we'll be doing another Ops IC update and be able to answer questions there as well. We're trying to make sure we get the information out that we can to everyone. So again, Saturday at 5 o'clock, we'll do another question and answer session with basically ops, operations, and myself. So we look forward to hearing from you all, and thank you.
I just want to, again, also thank everyone who was able to attend, and just want to reemphasize that, to please contact our information lines and use our email at 2024 South Fork or 2024.southfork@firenet.gov. And I would just like to thank everyone for their time, and that'll conclude tonight's community meeting. Thank you.